Army city targeted for a simulated biological attack. Declassified documents show that 2 years later, a similar test on a much larger scale takes place in Minneapolis.
This is the house I grew up in. This is 29th and Clinton. The school is behind me, about a block and a half. I played on the playground. All of my friends were in the neighborhood. It was a very middle-class working neighborhood. Most of our mothers stayed at home. We were the typical 50s housewives. Our fathers were working. We were in and out of each other's houses all the time, running in and out the way children will do. It was a very nice, safe, secure neighborhood.
In the summer of 1952, the Army turns this safe and secure environment into a testing ground, simulating an attack with bacteriological weapons. During a 3-month period, from 8 in the morning until midnight, hundreds of military personnel spray clouds of zinc cadmium sulfide over Minneapolis.
Zinc cadmium sulfide is a material that's totally synthetic. It was created specifically for the purpose of doing these types of experiments because it was completely different from anything else that was in the air.
The airborne powder is sprayed from trucks in the streets and from canisters on rooftops in both commercial and residential areas. The Army then monitors how far it travels and where it lands. No one is exempt from exposure to the zinc cadmium sulfide particles, and the Clinton Elementary School, no longer in existence but similar to this school, is one of the targets the Army subjects to massive spraying day after day.
It was a day that many were waiting for, a chance to tell the scientists about health.
In 1977, KTCA, a public television station in Minneapolis, breaks the story about the Army test, focusing attention on alleged high rate of health problems at the Clinton School.
My first reaction was disbelief. I thought, no, never. This is not true. And I was in denial for many, many months. And during that denial time, I was really determined. I'm going to find out everything about this.
She is not alone. Public hearings soon follow.
Necessarily the optimal risk assessment.
Many come to hear testimonies, to listen to the experts.
Disclosure and nothing but.
Diane's own memories start coming back.
I vividly remember being lined up, going into the music room. There was an older gentleman sitting in a chair with a light wand in his hand, and he was passing this over our bodies on the outside of our clothing. I started contacting my old school pals. I started keeping a list of illnesses. The bottom came for me when I found out that 4 of my pals that lived directly across the street from me on Clinton Avenue had all died of cancer. These are 4 separate families in no way related health-wise. They died within a year of each other back in the early 80s when these people would have been in their 40s. And I thought, well, this doesn't quite seem like a coincidence to me.
During her research of declassified documents, Diane finds that Army doctors came back to the Clinton School the following year, 1953. They found a high rate of asthma, respiratory problems, and some cases of pneumonia. A report of the Minnesota Health Department also found that in the same year, the rate of infant mortality in Minneapolis is unusually high.
The warming has been continuous with the exception of what's been hidden temporarily, toxically, by climate engineering. And the negative effects from climate engineering now far outweigh any perceived benefits from these programs. It's simply a way to mask the severity of what's unfolding until the last possible moment. So what happened when the planet started to warm again? Because there was the buildup of greenhouse gases continuing to occur, the geoengineers doubled down. And the warmer it gets, the more they double down. And this is simply like trying to put out a fire with buckets of gas, George. So it's the same approach in the medical industry, right? Don't we see that?
We see it all the time.
Same approach. Just take more pharmaceuticals. If the ones you're taking aren't working, you need to take more. And now we're talking about on a planetary scale. So 1945 is when the programs appeared to have been deployed in earnest, and it shows up immediately on global temperature records.
How did you get involved with this, Dane?
Never wanted this battle. I'm not political. I state that often. And I've never been any sort of an activist. But when I built my home in the Pacific Northwest expecting to find clean air, a fully off-grid home, I'm on wind, solar, and hydro. And when I began to lose massive amounts of my solar power uptake, that's my background with Bechtel Power, from whatever these aircraft were emitting with not a natural cloud in the sky, that is not condensation. It's impossible. And when I began to research and found the mountains of data on climate engineering, geoengineering, began to test my rain, my precipitation, finding the same elements in the rain that were listed in the patents, climbing steadily with every precipitation event. The more they sprayed, the more visible, the more power I lost, the more aluminum that showed up in my rain. And I couldn't look the other way once I knew.
Would you say most big cities in the United States are the victims of being sprayed?
As in being focused on, if you will? No, I wouldn't say that. Now,
so just targeted key areas, or what?
Although with this caveat, because some of the temperature readings are taken from those larger urban areas, there may be some focus to try to lower those temperatures for afternoon highs, if you will, in order to try to mask some of the severity of the warming that's occurring. And in regard to the warming, we've just passed, I believe, the 380th consecutive month of above normal global temperatures. And I know everybody's divided on this issue because we all know that there's people making money off climate change. Right?
Oh, yeah.
We know that, right?
Absolutely.
So what I would ask people to consider is people make money off of wars, right, George? Both sides.
Just a little bit.
They make money, the same people make money off both sides of the conflict. But does that mean the wars didn't happen? Does that mean people didn't die? No. The wars happened and people died, and the same is true here. Yes, we have disaster capitalists making money off of what's happening with the climate. But that doesn't mean the damage is not real. That doesn't mean the danger is not real. So Monsanto can make all the aluminum-resistant seeds they want, all the UV-resistant seeds they want, all the drought-resistant seeds they want. When the ship goes down, it won't matter, will it?
Has anybody filed suit against any organization or entity claiming that they got sick because of this?
There are a number of claims. The legal team that works directly with geoengineeringwatch.org has filed in Canada in March of 2016. We filed a 60-day notice of intent to file a lawsuit already in the U.S. Our legal team has, but we have not filed the actual complaint yet because we're still tightening it up, making sure it's completely bulletproof. But this is interesting, George. Within